Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the All-American Savage Show podcast. I am your host, John Burke, with my beautiful bearded husband here, Josh, working these controls like a NASA space operator, baby. If only the moon landing was real. Ugh.
It isn't.
What a day. What a day. Beautiful day out here in downtown, right outside of Dallas. Man, the storms came in this morning. The wind was, again, going crazy, but it looks like it's going to shape up to be a very beautiful day today.
It really does.
So, how'd your morning go?
It was good.
You had a golf lesson?
Had a little golf lesson, got the kids dropped off, got my errands done.
A little golf lesson? See a little flex in the pecs over there. Somebody's back at the gym.
Okay.
Somebody's back at the gym.
Just trying to
Good for you.
Trying to get it right, you know.
Get it tight.
Get it tight.
That way you can get there all night or something like that. I think it was Socrates that said that.
I'm like, what can I do to get John to stop calling me sugar tits? Like, no, I'm not. I won't have dessert.
No, that was worse than a load. Well done. Well done. That definitely caught me off guard. I appreciate that. Oh, my God, dude. Oh, my God. Well, normally we would start off with doing this day in history, but there was this really cool thing that came across my timeline that I wanted to tap into. It was a picture of your mom. No, it was. It's gonna be one of those shows, guys. It's gonna be one of those shows. So bear with us. No, the title of this article is "False Myths About the Wild West That Many People Still Believe." And I grew up on cowboys and Indians. I played that as a kid. My dad would buy me those little fake 6-shooter holsters, and I'd walk around like a cow. I loved it. Watched all the westerns, Hang 'em High, John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, you name them. Outlaw Josie Wales, the series of The Man with No Name, all that stuff. So I thought this was a really interesting article that if you're into stuff like that, like me, like, yeah, but I found this actually really cool. So the first one, it talks about, it's not secret that Western films shaped what people think about Wild West. Stories of outlaws, bank robberies, and the wars with the Native Americans made the Old West seem lawless. In reality, America in the 1800s was far less exciting. The truth is that most cowboys didn't wear cowboy hats. Even tumbleweeds didn't appear in America until the late 19th century. The stereotypical version of American cowboys shooting guns while on horseback is fake. How many of these false myths about the Wild West did you believe? First one is, some outlaws were shameless self-promoters. So essentially what they're saying is they were like, the outlaws were like influencers. They had to like promote themselves. Like, hey,
Right.
I'm doing this new Colt revolver 6-shooter they just sent me. I'm just going to do a little unboxing for all you out there. My name's Billy the Kid. Make sure you hit the like down below.
Smash that like button. Smash it.
Smash that like. In many movies, outlaws had to lay low to avoid getting arrested. In reality, many famous outlaws were shameless self-promoters. That's how they became so famous. For instance, Jesse James would give notes to witnesses bragging about his exploits, even while holding up a train. Billy the Kid was known for loudly bragging in saloons. On top of that, many outlaws befriended each other. The groups of outlaws would spread stories about each other, some exaggerated and others true. Speaking of that, like, what is your favorite Western movie?
I'm trying to think. I know everybody says Tombstone. I mean, pretty good.
Okay, look, I'm sorry. I just got to say,
okay.
Tombstone was not a great movie.
You don't think so?
Okay, let me clarify on that one. Kurt Russell is not a good actor. I'm sorry.
You don't think so?
I know.
Yeah,
Val
I like
Kilmer was
Unforgiven,
great.
too.
Sam
Unforgiven
Elliott
was
was
good.
great.
Yeah.
Except for Bill Paxton, not a good actor, at least not in a Western.
You don't think so?
No.
I liked it.
It was a good premise, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But Kurt Russell's character...
I liked 310 to Yuma, too. That was
which one? The old or the new?
The new one.
Yes. Christian Bale did an excellent job on that one. Yes.
Good.
That was, and sadly enough, that was a very underrated movie.
It was.
It did not get a lot of traction, but it was a really good, they did a very good job on that, and he made it very believable. I'd have to say, like, one of my favorite Westerns, I know it's cliche as hell, it's probably going to have to be Good, Bad, and the Ugly. I think it's definitely got to be that one or the Fistful of Dollars series. I think there's a 2-part, Fistful of Dollars and a Few Dollars More. I think that's got to be my favorites. Clint Eastwood over John Wayne. Like, or who do you think? If you put
Eastwood.
I'm good. Same.
Yeah.
Same. I think John Wayne was like he pioneered a lot of stuff. A lot of people didn't know he was an acrobat too prior to his break into the Western world.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, but Clint Eastwood. Yeah, I feel like Eastwood definitely brought a different style of cowboy, like the beady eyes and the small little, like, get off my lawn.
He looked like a cowboy.
He did. He actually did, you know. Native Americans were not a constant threat. Western films often portray Native Americans as the antagonists who constantly attack settlers. In truth, this rarely happened. Historian Roger McGrath said that the Wild West was far more civilized, more peaceful, and safer than American society today. Well, that's just because we have more people.
Yeah.
Like what?
Blazing Saddles was also a good movie.
Dude, can you imagine watching Blazing Saddles today?
It's still on. I just watched it not too long ago. It's hilarious.
Oh my God. Like, people would have meltdowns if they watch. Do they even air that?
Yeah, it's on like HBO or something.
They still air it?
Yeah.
No shit.
It's still on, yeah.
I love that.
That's why I just watched it. It's so funny.
Dude, it was a great movie.
Yeah,
it was a great fucking movie.
A lot of good ones.
It's like sticking himself up there. Yeah. That was like good comedy. I love that.
It really was.
While some Native American tribes warred with settlers, most saw an opportunity for trade. According to the Hard Road West, history and geology along the Gold Rush Trail, more Native Americans were killed by migrants than the other way around. And even that number is low, only 426 deaths in 20 years compared to the 30,000 deaths in the time span. I don't know if I believe that, because I remember in the only episode of Valor that we did, because we didn't have the time for it, it was about Sitting Bull.
Yeah.
And the fights and Custer's last stand at Little Bighorn, like there was a lot of carnage. Like there was a lot of attacks. But another thing that is not covered in a lot of Western history is that Native Americans were at war with each other quite a lot.
Oh yeah,
like quite a lot. They were expansionists in their own right.
They really were.
Some people are called West or Eastern colonizers. Like, well, they were kind of doing that already.
Growing up in Ohio, we that was one of the big things was the Indian history, and there was an Indian called Leather Lips, and it's a pretty savage story. But he gets executed by another tribe of Indians. It's worth looking into.
Oh,
it's pretty interesting.
Nope, I take my movie back.
Debbie Does Dallas.
Yes, okay. Fair enough. It's Dallas. It works. She wore a cowboy hat. It's good. No, it's Dances with Wolves. Kevin Costner.
Is that really a
Western?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about him out in Indian land and learning how to, work with the Indians and fight alongside of them. Then he saw how the evils of the Western expansionism and all that other stuff. And I thought it was a really good movie. It was Dances with Wolves, but there was another one. I think it's A Man Called Horse is another one that's really good. Then there's How the West Was Won. There's a lot of great freaking Westerns out there. I feel like America needs more of that.
Yeah.
We need more of those old style toxic masculinity style movies.
Texas Stacks, he does a great job.
Yeah, the painter, the Marine Corps veteran. Yep, he does a lot of our stuff. He's an amazing guy. The Wild West was not lawless. The word lawless is often used to describe the Wild West. In truth, America was no more lawless than it is now. Historian Eugene Holland told the Independent Institute that the Wild West was far more civilized, more peaceful, and safer place than American society today. According to the Smithsonian, the reputation of lawlessness began with newspapers from Dodge City, Kansas. That's where the phrase "get out of Dodge" originated. Sensationalized newspapers from the early 1870s provided the basis of Western movie plots, and little known fact, that's where CNN got its origins. Oh my God.
What would Three Amigos be considered? Western?
Comedy.
But it was still they were cowboys, right? Sort of.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess it could. I guess because they're. What would you say? A plethora. What is a plethora of people? Plethora.
What is a plethora?
What is a plethora?
Trim the hedges of many small villages. I thought it was hilarious.
Cowboy hats were not popular. The Stetson hat is better known by the name cowboy hat. It is so ubiquitous in Western films that people may think every cowboy wore them. In reality, cowboys rarely wore the hat. It wasn't even designed until 1865. John B. Stetson designed the hat based on Mexican vaqueros hats. According to the National Cowboy Museum, the hat went through several designs before landing on the classic look we know today. It became popular in the 19th and early 20th centuries for its durability, but few people wore it during the Wild West era. Firearms were prohibited in most towns. Well, fuck those towns. In Wild West movies, every character has a gun on their hips. In reality, many towns prohibited carrying weapons. States such as Louisiana and Kentucky outlawed carrying firearms. Although many of these laws were repealed, even Dodge City, a city known for its lawlessness, had signs saying the carrying of firearms is strictly prohibited. That said, historian Adam Winkler noted that many people still carried guns to protect themselves from wild animals. The federal government stepped away from gun laws, and rules varied from state to state. So even back then, they had unconstitutional laws. So fuck those people. Settlers sat in traffic jams. Western movies make 19th century America look nothing. Western movies make 19th century America look like nothing but small towns and rolling barren hills. But cities existed in the 1800s, and where there were cities, there were traffic jams. Both carriages and cars sat in traffic jams in the Wild Wild West. Between 1880 and 1900, over 15 million people moved to American cities. Industrialization encouraged people to leave for rural towns for more job opportunities in the cities. Many of the smaller settlements became ghost towns because of this. With more people, there is much more traffic. Wait, I don't know. Wild camels roamed the American West? What? If Wild West movies were historically accurate, they would show camels roaming around. Wild camels indeed lived in North America during the 1800s. Thank the Secretary of War, Jefferson Davis, for bringing camels to the U.S. Davis thought that camels were the key to the westward expansion since they could haul supplies and require little water. The U.S. Army bought 75 camels and sold them at auctions. During the Civil War, many of these camels were released into the wild. Historians don't know what happened to all the camels. I have a pretty good idea. They're called coyotes. I mean, I didn't know that. But I mean, I'm glad they clarified. Like, I did, like, camels.
They brought them over from.
Yeah. I was like, what? Camels didn't originate in America. We didn't have them just naturally just roaming
growing
around.
from trees.
Yeah. Where do you think camels come from, you weirdos? I didn't know. But it makes sense, though. If you're thinking you're pushing out west where it's a lot more desert, then, yeah, I get the camel aspect. Makes sense.
I guess.
Okay. This is going to piss you off. I know you're probably not going to like this one, but the OK Corral fight didn't happen at the OK Corral. It's not okay. The gunfight at the OK Corral was one of the most famous Wild West shootouts of all time. The 30-second gunfight resulted from a long-time feud between famous outlaws such as Doc Holliday and Ike Clanton. However, it didn't actually happen at the OK Corral. The shootout actually took place on the side of C.S. Fly's photographic studio on Fremont Street. This was 6 doors down from the OK Corral. That hasn't stopped the OK Corral from becoming one of the most popular tourist destinations in Tombstone, Arizona. I actually knew that one before, though. Mm-hmm. That's because it was like, why did they call it shootout? Because it was more, they said it was more user-friendly to say. It was just easier. But this is colored me shocked on this one. Cowboys had terrible hygiene.
Really?
What? No. Living out on the no.
I feel like most people in that era would probably stink.
Yeah. California was not the first or only gold rush. The California gold rush was the most famous gold rush and the largest mass migration in American history. But it was not the first gold rush in the Wild West. The first significant gold rush occurred in 1799 in Cabarrus County, North Carolina. 30 years later, there was another gold rush in southern Appalachians in Georgia. For the first time, women became waitresses and a whole lot more. Hey, cowboy, looking for a good time? Bank robberies were very, very rare. Bank robberies is one of the most popular plot devices for Western movies. But how many bank robberies actually happened in the Wild West? According to the Larry Schweikart at the Foundation for Economic Freedom, not many. Only 8 bank robberies occurred between 1859 and 1900. I don't believe that. I do not believe that. There's no way.
Underreported?
It has to be.
You got me.
That doesn't make sense to me. Banks in the 1800s were heavily secure, says the Wild West, the wild world of history. Banks usually adjoining other buildings and large iron balls set on top of the safes. The shape of the ball caused an explosive effect when people shot at it. Those who tried to rob banks had a difficult time. The Pony Express was not successful. The Pony Express endures as the fastest mail service in the Old West. However, it was a financial flop. It only ran for 19 months before it was shut down. A few weeks after it began, the Pyramid Lake War between the United States and Piety Indians broke out. The Express ceased operations, which cost them $75,000. The Pony Express struggled to recover after that. By the time it shut down in October in 1861, the company had lost $200,000, over $6 million in today's money. Despite its short life, the Pony Express delivered 35,000 pieces of mail. Wasn't there a movie about that one? Same dude from Dances with Wolves.
Kevin Costner?
Didn't he do one on the Pony Express?
Probably.
I think
I'm not
he did.
like a huge Kevin Costner fan.
Do what?
I'm not like a huge Kevin.
Well, neither am I. But I mean, he's had some really good hit movies in regards to like Western stuff like that.
I don't know.
Most cowboys are only around 5 feet tall. Okay. Some cowboys didn't ride horses. It's talking about camels and stuff like that. That's
camel toe.
Tumbleweeds didn't appear in the U.S. until 1877. When viewers see a tumbleweed in a Western film, most don't think anything of it. Many people don't know that the tumbleweed did not appear in America until 1877. The seeds, which are actually the Russian thistle, were brought to America by Ukrainian farmers. They first appeared in South Dakota, so unless you lived there in the late 1800s, you wouldn't know what tumbleweeds were. Okay, that's interesting. In the U.S., tumbleweeds were an invasive species. Even today, many tumbleweeds cover homes and can cause fires. Some of them even grow up to 6 feet tall.
Was Postman? Was that the movie you're thinking of?
That could be it. Yeah.
Comes from Old Man Burger.
That could be it. They were professional card players. You've seen cowboys play cards in saloon during Western film, but playing cards wasn't just a pastime in the Old West. Some people were professional poker players. According to American Heritage, many people began playing poker for a profit in the 1820s. Maverick. That's another good one. The new Maverick with Mel Gibson and James Garner. That's a Western. That's a really good one. He's a professional poker player. It's a really good movie, really good Western. I think it has Jodie Foster in there too. Poker is still a professional game in the U.S. In the 1970s, Las Vegas hotel owner Benny Binion found the Poker Hall of Fame, which still lists champions today. In the Wild West, poker games were far less official, but anyone could try their hand at winning a profit. Water wasn't free for the taking. Considering the long days cowboys worked, water would supposedly be in abundance at ranches while they were on the road. Well, this actually wasn't the case. Water was actually fairly priced back in the Wild West. While slabs of meat were sold for around a cent, water could be sold by entrepreneurs for a few dollars. Needless to say, cowboys didn't make a lot of money and therefore had to be very careful on how much of their money they spent on the overpriced liquid. Billy the Kid wasn't left-handed. Nobody gives a shit about that. Most cowboys were from Mexican descent. They're not sending us their best. Believe it or not, most Wild West cowboys were not American. Originally, cowboys of Mexican descent, the concept of a cowboy came from maqueros, trained ranchers in Mexico who rose to prominence after the Spanish arrived. According to the Smithsonian, the Wild West was just as diverse, if not more, than America today. 1 in 4 cowboys had roots in Africa. Historian William Katz said that people back then had to depend on each other to survive, regardless of background. The 1870s marked the end of the cowboys. Believe it or not, few cowboys were needed after the 1870s. In 1876, John Warren Gates discovered that animals did not cross barbed wire fences. While advertisements called it the great discovery of the age, others called it the devil's rope. Barbed wire meant that cowboys were no longer required. On top of that, cowmen and Native Americans did not like how barbed wire harmed cattle. Some people formed groups called the Blue Devils and the Javelinas to cut people's fences. The dispute continued throughout the end of the 19th century as cowboys faded out of history. Fights were very rare. Pop in an old Western film and a fight is sure to break out during the first half hour. Ironically, saloon fights and taking people outside to settle arguments isn't actually what happened in the Wild Wild West. Instead, surviving in the rough and tough times meant getting along with your neighbors. Although about 90% of the Western films feature people drawing guns for a high noon showdown, the truth is that most Western towns were safer with a low murder rate than many modern cities. The Alamo was about slavery, not freedom. The popular perception of the Battle of the Alamo is that settlers fought for Texas's freedom. The reality is that Texans fought to keep their slave. Mexico had abolished slavery in 1829, and Mexican soldiers were encouraged to free slaves when they went to Texas, which was under Mexican territory at the time. Of course, this wasn't the only contention that Texas had. Mexico had recently passed new laws that imposed tariffs on Texans. On top of that, most Texans were illegal immigrants, and many became pirates to fight against Mexican law. I actually know firsthand that's not true. It's not true at all. The Battle of the Alamo was essentially a delay tactic to prevent Santa Anna from going after Sam Houston while he licked his wounds. The causation, I get that, but at the same token, I'm not saying that slavery didn't exist, but I'm saying the Battle of the Alamo was not about slavery. It actually had nothing to do with that. I don't know where they're getting this from. This is a little bit bullshit. You can actually go visit the Alamo and they'll tell you that firsthand. That makes me call into question everything about these articles. Then I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's more fake news. I don't know. I think it's bullshit. But whatevs. All right, so let's get into the news, ladies and gentlemen. I want to just, fuck those nerds. That's not entirely true. They're trying to like change that. And no, they did have slavery back then. But also they talked about immigrants and shit like that. Yeah, because Mexico basically said Americans wanted to come settle Texas, they could get land, but they would fall into the Mexican government. And then I forget how it actually changed, but it was like, that's a little bit of bullshit.
A little bit of bullshit.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of fake news. It was probably written by CNN.
Probably.
Well, sad news today. Yesterday, actually, a part of our childhood died. Gilbert Gottfried, the voice of the parrot Thiago from Aladdin, passed. Gilbert Gottfried had ventricular tachycardia. Comedian and actor Gilbert Gottfried died this week after a long illness, his family confirmed in a statement. In addition to being the most iconic voice in comedy, Gilbert was a wonderful husband, brother, friend, and father to his 2 young children. Although today is a sad day for all of us, please keep laughing as loud as possible in Gilbert's honor, the statement shared on Gilbert's Twitter account said Tuesday. Gottfried died of a recurrent ventricular tachycardia caused by myotonic dystrophy type 2, his friend and publicist Glenn Schwartz said. That's a sad thing. Norm Macdonald, Gilbert Gottfried. Yeah, that's rough. And I was watching a lot of things on Gilbert Gottfried last night, and he caught a lot of heat. He caught a lot of heat because apparently his thing was, it's never too soon. Like, I watched the special, it was on Twitter, and it talked about when 9/11 happened, like not even a week later, he's at a roast talking about, I gotta catch a flight to Los Angeles, but we got a layover at the Empire State Building. And everybody was like, too soon, too soon. You could tell like he was very nervous, but it was, he would just like, him and Norm Macdonald would always just right on top of
just
it. Like,
go at it.
I saw a spoot or a skit or an interview with him and Joy Behar from The View. And Joy Behar is kind of like, well, you do things like very quickly. She goes, oh yeah, you could die right now. I'd make fun of you right away. I would do it. And like, I would too. And I'd probably piss on her. So yeah, but he was
that's a pretty good impression.
Affleck. Why am I not surprised? Oh yeah. Gilbert, he probably backed off a lot in most recent days because like for fear of being canceled. Because I mean, you can't do that stuff now. I mean, you can.
I don't know.
Huh?
You think he backed off?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you didn't really hear a lot about him after a while, but I don't know. But may he rest in peace. Funny comedian.
Yeah, he was a funny guy.
You know, he did a lot of great movies, and it just sucks, you know? It was the voice of Thiago. But all right, let's get into the news, ladies and gentlemen. New York City subway shooting person of interest Frank R. James ranted about race wars and homelessness. Yes, he is a black male. And note how CNN really held back on that one. They're like, suspect is at large. We don't know what he looks like. Yes, you do. You just don't want to publish it for fear of being, accused of racism.
I know.
Frank R. James, a 62-year-old person of interest in the Brooklyn subway mass shooting on Tuesday, had a history of incendiary social media posts. He used them to rant about coming race wars, gun violence, homeless people, and how outreach workers are homosexual predators. On Tuesday morning, 10 people were shot in a Brooklyn subway station while another 13 were injured. Sunday night, just days before the Brooklyn attack, the primary person of interest, Frank R. James, ranted in a YouTube video about how the war in Ukraine could bring about a race war to exterminate black people. No, he's one of those. Oh, boy. Everything's about him. Oh, man. Mercury retrograde's going on. Well, they're trying to do this to kill black people. Like, what? Okay, dude. It said... And warning, the streaming foul language, I won't actually read it, but it says, they're white, you're not. They're doing that to each other. What do they think they're going to do to you? He said, it's just a matter of time before these white motherfuckers say, hey, listen, enough is enough. These N-words got to go. What you're going to do, you're going to fight. And guess what? You're going to die. In another video posted on April 11th, James ranted about how he wanted to kill people. He says, I've been through a lot of shit where I can say I wanted to kill people. He said, I wanted to watch them die right in front of my fucking face immediately. But I thought about the fact, hey, I don't want to go to no fucking prison. Fuck that. I'm not going to be no fucking prison. I'm just not. Another video posted on March 27th, he ranted against the homeless people in New York City's subway system and criticized Mayor Eric Adams. Eric Adams, what the fuck? What are you doing, brother? What's happening with this homelessness situation? I got on the E-train. Every car I went to was loaded with homeless people, he said. NYPD Commissioner Keechan Sewell said the department did not consider James' comments as threats against Adams. But yeah. And there you have it. And here's the weird part about this, though. Like, there were cameras everywhere. There were cameras everywhere in that subway station. There are so many different angles circulating. How do they not, like, that's...
It's bullshit.
I feel like there's just something weird about this.
It's kind of upsetting is that, we were talking before the podcast started that some 65-year-old man went to jail up in Alaska for threatening senators up there.
Yeah.
Murkowski and the other guy, I forget his name. But this guy here, he did the same thing, but just to regular citizens, and he actually carried it out.
Do we really want to go down that road?
I mean,
You know why. Gotta love that black privilege, motherfucker. Damn, this dude. And by the way, New York, one of the most strictest gun law states there are.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird how criminals just don't follow gun laws. Like,
Not
maybe
even
if
a
y'all
little bit.
actually listen now, you would, like, repeal these stupid laws and encourage citizens to be armed. Because guess what? Criminals are still going to get their hands on firearms, regardless if you make them illegal or not. It doesn't matter.
Such a shame.
It is. But, well, I know CNN's not really doing so good right now. So for those that don't know, CNN just launched a streaming service. And they have paid upwards of $300 million to make this happen. Fox has their app, their streaming services, stuff like that. It's very successful. They have a lot of big names on that app, yada, yada, yada. Well, I guess CNN's trying to do the same thing. Well, CNN paid $300 million to attract fewer than 10,000 daily viewers on this app. Bro, that's like our numbers on our podcast, like starting off with like in the first like 10 hours. Just on SoundCloud. That doesn't include like Spotify and iTunes. Like, that's bad. And we don't pay anybody.
No, that's like a multi-billion-dollar company.
That's horrible.
Terrible.
A total of $300 million has already been invested into CNN, which attracts only 10,000 viewers per day. If my math is correct, CNN paid $300,000 or $30,000 per viewer. If my math is incorrect, I went to public schools. This is written by Breitbart. The stated goal was to invest a total of $1 billion with a B into CNN. Which would basically mean that these arrogant narcissists intended to spend a cool $1 billion to attract about 25,000 daily viewers. As of right now, CNN is looking for a bigger failure than Quibi. Remember Quibi? Quibi came from the genius mind of Jeffrey Katzenberg. Launched in April of 2020 in the heat of the pandemic for $7.99 a month. Quibi offered short-form streaming content. So basically, Quibi wanted people to pay a monthly fee for what they got for free on YouTube. Before the end of the year, and to the surprise of no one who resides in reality, Quibi was shut down. In the history of the worst ideas, Quibi used to be number one. But at least when Quibi shut down, it had something to show for its short life, a handful of television shows now available on Roku. The stupidity around CNN is simply mind-boggling. To begin with, CNN, as I mentioned Tuesday, doesn't even offer CNN. You can't stream the 24/7 news channel on CNN+. So CNN Plus is not CNN Plus. There's no plus. Actually, there's no CNN at CNN Plus. Instead, you get a bunch of shows hosted by smug liars no one watches over a regular CNN. But unlike Quibi, the shows on CNN Plus have no shelf life. They're shows based on current events. Does anyone go back and watch old newscasts or episodes of Entertainment Tonight or reruns of Geraldo? Already there are reports that Warner Bros. Discovery, which just took the helm at CNN in a big merger, intends to cut future investments into CNN Plus by hundreds of millions of dollars. My guess is that CNN Plus is doomed and will be integrated into HBO Max or something. Once there, most of the shows will be canceled. Teehee. One piece of news that should make righteous men everywhere feel happy is that Chris Wallace is reportedly very unhappy at CNN and is threatening to walk if he's not moved over to CNN LOL into Chris Fredo Cuomo's old-time slot. If the reports are true, Wallace can see the writing on the wall. He knows no one is watching his stupid CNN show, and CNN Plus's days are numbered. In a fit of virtue signaling, Wallace left Fox News last year to sell his soul to disgraced former CNN chief Jeff Zucker. Well, a few months later, Zucker was fired, which must have caused Wallace to fill his underwear with panic. After all, just a few months after Wallace stomped off a lucrative Sunday morning perch, the guy who was supposed to protect him was gone, and now Wallace is working on a streaming service with cable access level ratings, which means his career could disappear entirely. Teehee. Oh my God. I love it. I love it.
These guys think they're like gods, man.
They do.
I mean, even look at Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
He was huge on Fox, had big numbers, everything like that.
Yep.
And then his little sex scandal got fired.
Was that what got him canceled? Was it a sex scandal? Or did he say something?
No, it was a sex scandal.
What did he do?
I think he was inappropriately talking to his female coworker.
Oh, that's right. Yep, that's right. Okay,
and so he got fired, and now he's got his own little podcast that he does, which
is still very successful. Yeah,
is it?
Yeah, because he still brings in big guests. Because I know it was O'Reilly and Hannity were very competitive. But no, I'd actually seen that O'Reilly was still he was still pulling in big numbers on his own thing, which is impressive. I mean, good for you. You're saying fuck the networks, I'll do my own thing. But
I don't know. I saw some of his social media stuff, and it didn't look like he was getting very much engagement at all. Looked like
shit. I don't either. Facebook, on my page of 500,000, I barely get any. They've shadow banned me into fucking non-existence. It's why I barely even post on Facebook anymore.
Yeah, well, I don't see people flocking to Chris Wallace if he decides to just leave CNN either.
True.
I mean,
yes, true.
He's a.
Bill O'Reilly had really etched out a name.
Journalist.
Well, he etched out a name for himself in the conservative movement. Bill O'Reilly was a very well-known, prominent name. So when he did his own thing, he had all those people wanting to follow him. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually kind of shocked. For example, Milo Yiannopoulos didn't do something similar. I mean, I think he tried to do that, but he also kind of faded away. I mean, he's on Telegram. I see him there. Mm-hmm. I've reached out a few times to try and get him on the podcast. He flirted with me once, and I was like, okay, well, this is just weird. But
I thought he came back out as straight.
He said he is. I don't know. Milo's a troll. I don't know.
I thought some of his stuff was pretty fun. It was entertaining.
He was great. Yeah. He was wonderful. Of course he went overboard, but he even said he's a self-labeled troll.
Yeah.
And I respected that about him. It's this guy, doesn't take himself too seriously. Mm-hmm. But the left did not know how to combat someone like Milo Yiannopoulos, who was openly gay.
He was openly
married
gay,
to a black dude. It's he's a homophobic racist. He's married to a black guy.
Married to a black, yeah.
How does that work? He was, yeah. But, well, it actually happened. I'm surprised. I thought Greg Abbott was doing some political theater. He wasn't. This article hit April 13th. Is that today? Yep. All right. First migrant bus from Texas arrives near U.S. Capitol in D.C. A bus filled with migrants arrived in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday morning and unloaded blocks from the Capitol. The bus traveled from Texas under recent orders from Governor Greg Abbott. The Texas Division of Emergency Management loaded migrants who volunteered to take the trip to D.C. earlier this week. Fox News reported the migrants reportedly boarded in the Del Rio Border Patrol sector. As the federal government continues to turn a blind eye to the border crisis, the state of Texas will remain steadfast in our efforts to fill the gaps to keep Texans safe. Governor Greg Abbott said in a written statement, by busing migrants to Washington, D.C., the Biden administration will be able to more immediately meet the needs of the people they are allowing to cross the border. Texas should not have to bear the burden of the Biden administration's failure to secure our border. Fox News reported the migrants are citizens of Colombia, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. The group consisted of single adults and some family units. Two men appeared to be public officials screening the migrants as they unloaded. The officials scanned barcoded wristbands and then removed the bands before letting the migrants leave the scene. The exact number of migrants released near the U.S. Capitol is not known at this time. Governor Abbott's office is expected to make an announcement later Wednesday morning. On April 6th, Governor Abbott ordered the Texas Division of Emergency Management to prepare buses to transport DHS-related migrants on a voluntary basis from their drop-off location to Washington, D.C. To help local officials whose communities are being overwhelmed by hordes of illegal immigrants who are being dropped off by the Biden administration, Texas is providing charter buses to send these illegal immigrants who have been dropped off by the Biden administration to Washington, D.C., Governor Abbott said. We're taking them to the United States Capitol where the Biden administration will be able to more immediately address the needs of the people they are allowing to come across our border. Now, I remember posting this a day or two ago on Instagram, and people were like, why don't they just bus them back to America? How do you think they got here in the first place? Some of the stupid shit that I see in the comments, well, yeah, we just moved the problem from Texas to D.C. Why don't we just put them back in Mexico? It's because they come right back. Do you not know the issue with the border? Have you not been watching for years now? I don't understand how people still make that claim.
I thought Abbott was going to finish the border.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, it sounded like a good idea.
It did to me.
There can't be that much more left, right?
Dude, I don't know. I know the federal government pulled a lot of funding. Border Patrol is being cut left and right. They got budget cuts. They're it's hard for them to even keep people in there. It's bad. It's fucking bad. And they don't have the personnel to do it.
I bet if you polled a majority of Texans, they'd be in favor of finishing the border wall, especially people who ranchers and people that live close to the border who have drug traffickers sex traffickers.
Well, remember, like months ago, you and I talked about that. We read these articles that said that even Democrats on the border are saying this is insane. Like, this is ridiculous. This should be a bipartisan issue.
Yeah, well, Beto O'Rourke, of all people, is coming out and saying that the Biden administration has failed on this front.
Where did he say that?
He just came out and said that there's
no shit.
That's liberal. Yeah.
You know it's bad when Beto O'Rourke is condemning the Biden administration.
2022 candidates come out against Biden's repeal of Title 42, slam admin for lack of plan. So when Title 42 expires, then there's going to be even a huge surge of illegal
Yeah, because
immigrants.
they were forecasting that. They're saying the worst one that we've seen yet. It's like a tsunami of illegal immigrants they're going to collect and going to head this way.
Yeah.
Dude,
I mean, that should worry everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because it's going to surge in crime. Like, you think prices are bad now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just going to, if they don't do something now, it's just going to be.
Well, it's just, again, it's going to position themselves or posture themselves for this,
the
midterms, and it's going to be bad. But, talking about blaming things, this is, dude, you think you hear it all from Jen Psaki, who's going over to MSNBC, and rightfully so. This idiot, she belongs there with the other idiots out there. Psaki slams Governor Abbott over truck inspections at Texas-Mexico border, blames him for price increases, ergo inflation. This is serious. This is real. The Biden administration is claiming that Texas Governor Greg Abbott's inspection of trucks entering the U.S. from Mexico is not only unnecessary, but contributing to inflation throughout the country. Yes, yes, this is real, folks that are listening. Like, please do your best to stay on the road. Don't crash your vehicles. Don't punch your wall. This is real. She is literally blaming everything under the sun except for President Biden.
I'm telling you.
She will not accept any personal responsibility, neither will Biden. It is constantly deflect.
Is everybody in his administration a complete asshole?
I think they're all stupid. We have an administration of clowns running this country.
This lady is such an asshole when she gets up and
it's a circus.
Addresses the press. Yeah.
It's a fucking circus. The Biden administration, blah, blah, blah. In the statement issued Wednesday morning, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that the delays caused by Abbott's policies were having far-reaching impacts. Governor Abbott's unnecessary and redundant inspections of trucks transitioning ports of entry between Texas and Mexico are causing significant disruptions to the food and automobile supply chains, delaying manufacturing, impacting jobs, and raising prices for families in Texas across the country, Psaki said. Well, Psaki, here's the deal. Let me just break this down for you real quick, because you clearly haven't been to the border. Neither has Kamala. But in those trucks, do you know what they tend to hide? Just venturing a guess. Drugs, humans, you never know, guns, fentanyl. So you kind of have to inspect them. Mm-hmm. I mean, otherwise, then why do you even have a border? What's the point? Not really sure. Like, I mean, dude, I feel like our country has just, we are living in an idiocracy right now.
Yeah.
You have a White House press secretary that is blaming the border, which is their fault. Mm-hmm. The border is a federal responsibility. And she's blaming Abbott because he's inspecting trucks and slowing down traffic. This is nothing new. I don't know where she's getting this from. This is nothing new. It's always been that way. This is another deflection. It's another red herring is what they're trying to do. But they will take no responsibility. Dude, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see 2024 rip the Biden administration apart. Like, rip them alive. It'll be so good. So good to watch. Even come midterms. Even I saw an article that Bill Maher, the comedian Bill Maher, who's predominantly a leftist, even he was, I think he was talking to Ben Shapiro, somebody, he's saying, like, Democrats are going to get shredded in 2022. He's like, in the midterm. He's like, they're going to get their asses kicked. Because even he sees it. And Maher is a left-leaning liberal. He's gone more centrist on some things, but he's predominantly left.
Oh, he's hardcore left. You know, he's a big
he's
part
a
of the problem as well.
Oh, absolutely. He's a blowhard. But he does have some points, like, he will come back and be more centrist on that. I can respect him for at least having that. But because he will even call out the DNC on stuff. I'll respect that about him. But he does say a lot of other stupid shit. It's like, dude, you're way off the mark on that one. But, you know, even when you got people like Bill Maher saying things like this, like Democrats are going to get shredded.
Yeah.
You know, it's coming. It's coming. And speaking of that,
unless you get like, I don't know, 20 million illegal immigrants packed into the country and get them voting.
And that's why states have got to make sure, like Texas, Georgia, Florida, you pass these voter registration, all these voter laws.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have an ID. You have to have all this stuff. Like, yes, we need this. That way it prevents all that stuff from happening. But, this just in. Another reason. This is another reason why Democrats are going to be going down really hard. Schoolhouse sickos. A New Jersey lesson plan endorses puberty blockers to 5th graders to manage teen years. This is a real story, ladies and gentlemen. New Jersey public school students as young as 10 years old could be taught that puberty blockers are an acceptable way to manage adolescence. And now don't forget, these are teenagers, okay, as young as 10 years old. Keep that in mind, as young as 10 years old. Being taught that puberty blockers are an acceptable way to manage adolescence and that masturbating a few times a day is a healthy way to relieve stress, according to sample lesson plans being reviewed by the state's school districts. These are teachers teaching your 10-year-old child about masturbation. This is abhorrent. This is disgusting. And this is also another reason why New Jersey almost fully flipped. This is the most disgusting, vile thing. I am just at a loss. They are pushing this so hard. I'm telling you, if the voting doesn't work and we don't, then it's going to come down to violence. It's going to come down to violence. And this is something worth being violent over. Like if you want to save your country from these groomers and these pedophiles and then if the voting them out doesn't work, all you're left with is putting a bullet in their head. Make them afraid. And I think it will happen. I think America, because, we saw it with the voting in Virginia and stuff like that. When you go after the children, Americans do not tolerate that. Mm-mm. They will not tolerate it. But if the voting system does not work for them to at least go out there and try and combat it the legal and right way, then what other options are they left with? Nothing except violence. And, it's justified in my mind. I'm sorry, it is. And I'm actually not sorry. I saw this video yesterday. I forget who shared it to me. It was an actual school teacher teaching second graders in like some Zoom call. He talks about he's a little flamboyant dude. There's like, so when the doctor has the baby and the woman's there and she gives birth to the baby, the doctor guesses if it's a boy or girl. And I'm like, what?
What doctor are you going to?
Exactly. It's like, you liberals, like, y'all are some of the most just I don't know.
Huh.
I just don't know, like, where your mind is at when you actually think this. And I'll tell you where they're coming from. Go follow the Dating Libs Instagram and Facebook page and Twitter.
Oh, my God.
DATINGLIBS. Dating Libs. I just started this one like a week ago. You're going to see who these people are that are procreating and having these little Satan spawn. That's who's birthing these failed abortions. It's these whack jobs that have no business procreate. They should be sterilized. These people should be exported out of this country. Get them out of here. They're not needed. They're disgusting pedophile groomers. Go put them on Epstein's Island, round them all up, go put them on Epstein's Island, and then bomb it. Bomb the hell out of it. And if you disagree with that, and it's like, well, that's just mean. I don't really care. You can join them for all I give a shit. If you really think that grown adults have any business talking to children about puberty blockers and masturbation and sex and gender identity and transgenderism, this is indoctrination at its core. That's all this is. And it's abhorrent. And this is interesting to see. Virginia Democrat Representative Abigail Spanberger calls lawmakers to consider a different job if banning stock trades is a deal breaker. Vulnerable Rep Abigail Spanberger, Democrat, on Tuesday said lawmakers should consider a different job if allowing a ban on individual stock trading by members of Congress is a deal breaker, potentially calling out fellow vulnerable Democrat and member of the Virginia delegation, Representative Elaine Loria, said the concept of banning lawmakers from trading stocks bullshit earlier this year. Spanberger said on social media that members of Congress must pass legislation that would ultimately put stricter guidelines in place aiming to prevent privileged information, which members typically get when and having voting jurisdiction over different stock sectors and being used for insider trading. Remember when Crenshaw came on the show and said that wasn't true? It actually is true.
Yeah.
Like, you do have an impact over the stock market. When the government awards these certain freaking contracts, that impacts the stock market. So technically, no, it's not insider trading, but in a sense, it is what you do with that information. So I guess, yes, it could be.
Yeah.
But they definitely do have a hand in manipulating the stock market.
Of course.
So if any if any Congress member out there has issue with this, then you have to ask yourself, why? Why do you take issue with this? You're paid $175,000 a year starting out.
Yeah, I'll go even further and say that job shouldn't pay $175,000 a year.
I agree.
Because that's just going to incentivize you to be a career politician.
I agree.
At most, maybe 65,000, 75,000.
Well, I mean, to be fair, so that also should require, like, there should be transportation provided, dorms to live in, food, per diem. I get that, and I agree with you. Yeah, if that's all in there, then absolutely.
Set it up like a dorm.
Yep.
They go, they fly in.
Yep.
They vote.
Yep.
I mean, what else do they do? I mean, they're not like...
That's literally it.
They're not
that's literally
making anything. They're not in a factory.
Yeah.
You know, they're not producing anything. They go and they literally vote and talk.
Yeah, pretty much. Or they're out there writing books, campaigning, kissing babies, shaking all that stuff. So, yeah, I got it.
That's all they're doing. I mean, anybody could do it.
You know, Democrat operatives warn Joe Biden will have a 2024 primary challenger. Didn't we talk about this yesterday, the day before?
Mm-hmm.
Prominent Democrat operatives have warned that if President Joe Biden makes good on his promise and runs for re-election in 2024, he will have primary challengers. If he runs, he will be challenged, Michael Starr Hopkins told The Hill on Wednesday. Hopkins enthusiastically supported Biden's presidential campaign in 2020, but has soured on the president as an unchallenged nominee. Corbin Trent, a former senior aide to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, echoed Hopkins' analysis. If it looks like it's going to be a free-for-all, then I think it's going to be back to the 24-person primary, he said. Democrats have been split by Biden leadership. On the one hand, far-left radicals have swayed the administration towards policies that are stifling the nation, such as energy dependence, inflation, immigration, and crime. On the other hand, less radical Democrats are trying to survive the midterms in less blue districts, which constituents are skeptical of the far-left agenda. For instance, Senator Joe Manchin is from a state that nearly voted for Donald Trump over Biden by 40 points, has opposed many of Biden's radical policies. Manchin is responsible for sinking Biden's costly Build Back Better agenda, which has also supported the fossil fuel industry during its war with the Biden administration. But far-left Democrats have slammed Manchin for blocking progress. When Manchin opposed Build Back Better, Representative Rashida Tlaib blamed him for failing the radical agenda. It should not surprise anyone that Senator Joe Manchin went on Fox News to kill the Build Back Better Act. He's been promising to do it for months, and some folks did not want to believe him, she said. President Joe Biden's policy agenda has been scuttled by Joe Manchin. Progress for the American people has been halted by Joe Manchin. No, Joe Manchin saved the people a lot of money. That Biden, by the way, new article coming out about Ukraine, talking about money, U.S. expected to announce hundreds of millions in new security assistance to Ukraine. This hit CNN Politics today at 8:51 a.m. The U.S. is expected to announce on Wednesday it is sending hundreds of millions of dollars in new military assets to Ukraine. Three sources familiar with the package tell CNN. The final amount has not been finalized as of Tuesday, but is expected to be close to $700 million. President Joe Biden is expected to use his drawdown authority to authorize the new aid package for Ukraine. Reuters first reported on the new security assistance package. If approved, the addition of the approximately $700 million in security assistance would bring the total aid to Ukraine to more than, you ready for this? $3 billion since the start of the Biden administration, including nearly $2.5 billion since Russia launched its invasion into Ukraine. Jeez. Ukraine's 2020 defense budget was only about $6 billion, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. In less than 2 months, the U.S. has provided nearly half of that in security assistance. Why? That when ladies and gentlemen, when they say the U.S., what they should be saying is you and me. That's our taxpayer money going to foot the bill in Ukraine. Fuck NATO. What is NATO doing? This is ridiculous. The United States has provided probably over half of Ukraine's defense budget. This is insane. What the fuck is NATO doing? Do you understand now what I'm saying? That if NATO pulls us into this bullshit, it's America lifting the heavy weight. It's America doing the fighting. It's America doing the dying. It's America doing the paying. That's you. That's me. That's our sons. That's our daughters, our brothers, our sisters, our husbands, our wives. That's us. I get the premise of NATO. Trust me, I understand it's a good thing. But the problem is when NATO goes rogue and does its own thing and acts like a bunch of incompetent morons and they're brokering deals with Russia, and then they expect America to step in and foot these bills?
Yep.
Trump was right. Biden is spineless. He has no balls. Trump called out the German chancellor and president, all of them. You said when they tried to negotiate Nord Stream 2, it's like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. What are you doing? But hey, we don't talk about that. When this shit kicks off, guess who they run to? America. And that's why they're applying all this political pressure on us, ladies and gentlemen. That's why our politicians, our MSM, the entire world are saying stand with Ukraine, oh, the babies, this, that. Mark Levine's like, look at the pictures. All these people are out there saying the same shit. I frankly am tired of it. I don't give a damn.
I know.
You've upped my taxes. I'm paying way more in taxes to what? To go over to some foreign corrupt government to help them fight about a war I don't give a shit about? It's ridiculous. This is insanity. So there you have it. $3 billion.
Administration is like the worst thing that could happen to anybody.
Dude, I again, like we said before, like I had low expectations, but fuck me running. Like you
Jesus,
are really setting the bar even lower.
I know.
I did not think that the Biden administration could be this bad. Seriously, I did not. I was like, wow. Like I figured it'd be like some minor stuff, some minor controversy. I figured he'd try and go after the Second Amendment in some ways, which he is. He's trying to do that. As far as the border goes, I was like, he's never going to fix that. Because
honestly, I think they're trying to play catch up because obviously they thought Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016, and they could slowly drip this agenda in over the course of 8 years.
Yeah.
So having missed that 4 years, I think they've got to double up on what they had planned.
I don't know, because I feel like Biden inherited a lot of problems that Trump was already in the process of fixing. But Biden basically... Well, no, the border. Trump was fixing the border.
He was fixing the border.
And Biden undid it. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like he inherited these problems that Trump was already working on fixing, and Biden reversed them and made the problems worse.
We were in a V-shaped recovery, right? So COVID came, everything went down, and then all the businesses started opening back up, V-shaped recovery. Yep. Everything was right back on track. So, I mean, if Trump was back in office, I think we'd be in a totally different place right now.
Well, now they're saying that mask mandates, stuff like that, might be coming back to America with the spikes in COVID.
It's to me, it seems like it's all about the election.
Yeah.
They know how terrible they're doing. I mean, the poll numbers can't lie.
Yeah.
Nobody likes this guy. Even a bird shit on him.
Yeah. I saw that.
Everybody's
making a big deal about that. Like it was the fly in Mike Pence's hair, and now Biden's getting shit on by a bird.
Shit on by a bird. Nobody likes this guy.
No, even the birds were like, "That's the guy."
Like, all right, let's bring back mandates. Let's bring back anything we can do to control the people.
Yep.
Mail-in ballots.
Dude, I'm telling you.
The next thing I'm waiting to hear is mail-in ballots.
Yeah, I could actually see them trying that as a strategy to try and win the midterms, to bring back the mask mandates, saying that you have to do this stuff. Vote. You can't go to the voter.
In Philadelphia, they already brought it back.
Yeah.
And Trump.
That's going to come down to the people to just revolt. Say no.
In Pennsylvania, he was handedly ahead. And Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona. I mean, he was ahead by hundreds of thousands of votes. And then all of a sudden, these mail trucks come in with mail-in ballots. Like,
it's bullshit.
That seems right.
Yeah, seems fair.
Nobody questioned anything.
Seems just. Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up for today's episode of the All-American Savage Show podcast. And as always, this episode is brought to you by ShellShockCBD.com. If you're having a difficult time sleeping, we have the Rack Out gummies that are THC-free. They are CBD and melatonin. Only 15 milligrams CBD and 5 milligrams of melatonin that will knock you out, give you a great night's sleep. You won't wake up feeling groggy and anything like that. Give it a shot. And again, it is THC-free. You will not fail a drug test. Give us a chance to earn your business. Try us out. If you've never given us a shot before, now's the time. We also make them in sample packs for like $5. We'll send you 2 or 3 gummies, and you can try and see for yourself. Because again, the premise behind that is like, give me $5. Let me give you some product in your hand for you to at least try. It's not a lot of money. You try it, it knocks you the hell out. Now you're a believer, and you come back and you buy a full bag. So again, those are the Rack Out gummies on ShellShockCBD.com. Using code BURK can save you 10% off of your order. Soon, very soon, we'll be launching a new subscription model where you're not only save 10% by being a subscriber, but also get free shipping. We have some other great things coming for you here in the upcoming weeks that Shell Shock is revamping. So as always, we really appreciate your love and support. You could hit that share button. Let your friends know about the podcast. Tell your boys and your girls if it made you laugh, educated, you made you cry, because it pissed you off, whatever. Share the podcast because it's free. This is free content. And thank you for all subscribers on Twitch and all the bits and everything. We're going to do the giveaway right after this episode. You got anything to add, my man?
Yeah, check out our reviews, too, for Shell Shock CBD. Our reviews are fantastic. Yeah. Our customers are fantastic.
We have great people.
Yeah.
Great people. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up. We will see you tomorrow, bright and early, right here on the All-American Savage Show. You stay savage, America.